Alright, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all glory, praises, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Makakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And salutations to the brothers that's teaching this truth and sincerity. And Shalom to the hopeful elect, the one-third sincere listeners. Alright, Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly calls God. And Yahweh Shai being the name of his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Alright, this gospel, this truth is for the Israelites, who are you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and the ones scattered abroad that may look like the other nations, but your spirit resonates with this truth, this gospel, this truth, this salvation, and the kingdom of heaven is for you. Alright, I'm going to title this video something along the lines of China, Japan, and South Korea make joint economic pact, something along those lines. Right, and pretty much we know that China and Japan, they're sworn enemies, as well as South Korea and China. But I believe South Korea has problems with Japan too. So all three of them, they actually have their own internal feuds going on amongst Ammon and Moab and Ammon. All right, so because among those people, you're gonna have Ammonites and Moabites in all three of the lands. You're gonna have either or, but China mainly being Moab, right, and Japan mainly being Ammon, and then maybe South Korea is Moab, but there's probably some Ammon there, right? And there's probably some Ammon in China, not predominantly, right? But they're all in the same region, so it's nothing for them to, travel and get there. Whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, but I'm just gonna read this article. But pretty much, these three countries, these three nations, they're deciding to join together, put their differences aside because they have a greater enemy. And they're realizing that they have a greater enemy that's screwing them over. And Japan, they haven't forgotten about what happened in World War II, right? And I said this before, hopefully, out of this little pact, it not only becomes an economic pact, but it can also become a military pact as well. And hopefully, even Japan can get some nukes out of this, right? When shit starts hitting the fan, when World War III is at the brink, hopefully Japan can get some nukes and pelt it at the whore, right? So they can get some justice, before the Israelites take over, because the Lord's gonna allow all these nations to pretty much get their rocks off, so to speak, because this is gonna be the last war. This is gonna be the war to end all wars. So the Lord is gonna make this an epic battle, man. In World War III, in the war to come, right? So I don't see why the Lord wouldn't give Japan some nukes for them to get some get back, because ain't gonna be no more get back in the kingdom. This is gonna be the final and last war. So get it all out now. All you nations, you're gonna have to just get it all out, man. Okay? This is it. The Lord's actually, that's balance, man. This is gonna be the most destructive war to come, right? So the Lord's gonna allow you nations to let it all out, man. Just do it, because this is it. After this war, you people are gonna realize you should have never had these fucking weapons to begin with, right? And then the Israelites are gonna rule, okay, under Yahweh Shai, the 144,000 and the rest of Israel, man. All right, so let me read this article. It says, pushed by Trump's tariffs, East Asian rivals revisit free trade pact. Um, it says, from left, Japanese Trade Minister Yoshimoto from the left, South Korean Industry Minister An Du Dujan, and Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao posed for a photo ahead of their trilateral trade ministers meeting in Seoul on March 30th. It says Trump's tariffs have pushed South Korea, Japan, and China back to the negotiating table. The free trade agreement talks had stalled since 2012 due to geopolitical and trade friction caused by who? Caused by the whore, America. All right, so that's yeah, that's I knew what I was gonna call this title. Um, it's gonna be called China, Japan, and South Korea form economic pact against the whore. All right, I knew there was a little bit something missing, so that's why. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So I'm continuing on, and it says, like I said, the free trade talks had stalled since 2012 due to who? Due to the United States presence in the East, in Japan. All right, but guess what? Their influence is dwindling. All right, Japan is not stupid. Okay, Japan is on the brink of a declining population. They want people to go over there. They actually want Jake to go over there. Even South Korea, so they want Jake. They want Jake specifically to go over there to bring forth more numbers, to prop up their numbers in population. They're paying Jake to go over there, all right, because they're under. They don't have the mode. Their men don't have the mojo like they used to, right? And the people are just all weirdoed out. But that's all thanks to Esau Edom, man. Esau screwed the minds of Ammon and Moab over there. All right. So now they need Jake to go over there and pop their woman and bring forth more population, and they're paying Jake to do so. Okay. But they're realizing that this devil, he's ruined a lot of things for us. Japan, he's seeing the growth. They're seeing the growth of China. They're seeing the growth of China without the devil, without the whore, without America, but still selling to America. But they've seen how far they've come, right? And so it's like, why not? Why not put the differences of how this is and these are hundreds of thousands of year beefs, too. You see what I'm saying? Thousands of year old beefs, and they're putting that aside because of what this devil has done within a space of 100 years, 200 years, 200 plus years. That's how much havoc he's put and hell he's put on these people. More than the hell that they've put on each other, these three nations put on each other for the 1,000 years that they've been beefing. 1,000+ years that they've been beefing, man. So they're like, fuck that. Let's put our differences to the side. We're not so different after all. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, or something like that, right? That's the mindset that they're having right now. Okay. So it says skepticism remains high despite economic benefits of deal. Yeah, because if you're able to put your country in a position to make more money, okay, then why then you will, because you're gonna do what's best in the interest of your country, your economy, and your people, so to speak. The unpredictable tariff policies of U.S. President Donald Trump are bringing an unlikely trio in East Asia together: South Korea, Japan, and China, as long-stalled free trade talks between the regional rivals have gained steam once again. Okay, now Um, yeah, I'll just continue on. Last month, just days before Trump's Slovakia, this is what I wanted to say. Now we know this is all being orchestrated. At the top is orchestrated by the elites because to crash the U.S. dollar, anyways. All right, because they want to crash the U.S. dollar. They don't want the U.S. dollar being the world reserve currency anymore, and they want to import a implement a digital currency, a digital CBDC that's going to be used worldwide. So the new world currency, the one world government, one world currency. Okay, so this is all just steps and plans, but on the surface, this is how it's playing out to the people, to the common person, to the common people. This is how it's playing out. But the elites, they want this to happen. They're okay with this because the elites are playing both sides. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. Last month, just days before Trump's so-called Liberation Day on Wednesday, the start of his self-proclaimed reciprocal tariffs on most countries and Slovakia. And you don't have to believe me, man. This is for the elect. Everything I'm saying is the truth through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. All right. But you don't have to believe me. You can kick rocks. You can tune out. All right. We're not here for you. We're here for the elect. That's it. Okay. We're the seers. We're the visionaries. We're when we be given the gift. All right, a gift of prophecy. Okay, and that relies solely on the spirit. It's not a carnal thing. It's not a carnal thing, man. You know what I mean? If you don't get it, that's on you. It is what it is. Your spirit didn't open your eyes for this. It is what it is. All right. Last month, just days before Trump's so-called Liberation Day on Wednesday, the start of his self-proclaimed reciprocal tariffs on most countries, amounting to the most sweeping tariff hikes since 1930, the three neighboring countries, all hit with especially heavy tariffs, held their first economic talks in 6 years. The top trade officials of Seoul, Tokyo, and Beijing all agreed to bolster cooperation in economy and trade and to speed up negotiations for a trilateral FTA, free trade agreement. Right. Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok said that the same day Trump's 25% tariffs on South Korean goods took effect, that the government would push for negotiations on the trilateral FTA as soon as possible. However, and America, you do a lot of bullying, man, because here it is, you claim that you help people, you help other nations, you help the Koreans, South Koreans have their independent Korea. It was one, I believe it was one Korea at one point. I'm not too sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was one Korea, and then there was a civil war that broke out, and then, but Esau is all behind all that shit, man. Okay, and okay, you help the South Koreans, so to speak. Yeah, but in return, you wanna keep them on a certain level, take their resources, right, and you benefit. Okay, but you're mad that there was a tariff on you, that they already had tariffs in effect that barely affect you, probably for good reason why there was a tariff in the first place. But anyways, moving along. The same day Trump's 25% tariffs on South Korean goods took effect, our government would push for negotiations on the trilateral FTA as soon as possible. However, just hours after the new tariffs kicked in, Trump announced a 90-day pause for Korea, Japan, and most other countries. Meanwhile, he upped the stakes on China, which now faces a staggering tariff rate of 145%. Negotiations for an FTA between the three countries have been on and off for more than a decade since they began in 2012. Around 16 rounds of official talks have taken place, but efforts were largely stalled due to geopolitical tensions and fears over domestic industry disruptions. This is a pretty. Let's keep going though. The three economies all rely heavily on similar export driven manufacturing sectors, producing automobiles, semiconductors, and steel with overlapping interests, prompting concerns that deeper market tie up could harm domestic industries. Geopolitical and trade tensions have also been a major hurdle. Um, yeah, I wanted to make a point because I believe China imports a lot of oil, so they don't really have any natural gas, so to speak, or crude oil, and they do a lot of importing. But because of that, they've actually went so hard for uh, for the infrastructure of the EVs, the electric vehicles, to where their cars they don't need to rely on crude oil or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? Not gas or whatever the fuck that powers the car. So they've built an infrastructure to where they don't need majority. Not like I know a good percentage of the cars on their road are electric, right? So that's also going into factor in that they're dumping the the oil reserves like the U.S. because the U.S. is backed by the oil that they the U.S. dollar, the petrodollar, right? So that's another way of them saying to hell with America, man. Not to say they don't import oil to this day, they still do, but I can see the bigger picture since I believe they're the leaders in this EV thing. All right, they're leading in technology as a whole. Okay, they're one of the most technologically advanced nations on the planet right now, if not the most technologically advanced. Okay, South Korea not too far from there either. Japan, right? Because they got a lot of infrastructure and stuff like that. This infrastructure over there and the engineering over there is it marvels compares to the West, man. You know, look here in Canada, they can't even fucking build a cross track across the city, man. It's been almost 15 years. Okay, China would have already been done. They should have just hired a Chinese company to come and just do it, man. You know, these Edomites are on no level, man. You know, and in this construction industry in the West, man, there's a lot of blame game. There's a lot of blame games, right? A lot of fucking d- purposeful delays on projects. So what I mean by that is a contractor will get a contract and they'll to extend the contract, they'll take longer than it needs to be, but they're still collecting money, right? They're still getting money, they're still getting funded money or whatever. You see what I'm saying? So there's a whole bunch of scamming going on in the West. That's why shit can't get done the way it can get done in the East, man, in China and various countries. All right, because when China says we need to build this infrastructure, we need to build this city, we need to build this, the government is actually behind it, backing it all the way through, and making sure it's getting done fast and efficiently. All right, these Edomites here, man, they like to take breaks, they like to fucking, go on coffee breaks, and they just be fucking around, man, smoke breaks, you know. The mindset of the people here is lazy compared to the people in the East, man. But you Moabites, you Ammonites, we're gonna need you to be those innovators and be creative in the kingdom too, man. We're gonna have to put that to use because we need you to build up our kingdom, man. All right. Um, says geopolitical and trade tensions have also been a major hurdle. These include Japan's 2019 export controls on South Korea, China's apparent economic retaliation in response to Korea's deployment of the U.S. THAAD missile defense system, and long standing historical and territorial disputes that have repeatedly derailed cooperation. Right? Existing bilateral deals such as the Korea US Free Trade Agreement and Korea and Japan's alliances with Washington, as well as issues involving North Korea, have also acted in constraints, said Park In Wee, a professor of international studies at Iowa Women's University. Despite these constraints, the recent revival of talks seems to be driven by intensifying uncertainty among the three countries. Right, because America, they use these countries and then abuse these countries and then leave them stranded, man. And Japan definitely feels that if you know if all hell breaks loose, we don't really feel they feel like you don't really got their back as much as you claim they do, as much as you claim you may have their back. You don't have Japan's back. America doesn't have Japan's back like they say they do, right? And America's spread thin, man. They're gonna be fighting wars on all these different fronts, except their home front, right? You see, if which was never meant to be, but if America was on the defense and America was really about their own, they wouldn't be caught up in the other people's world affairs, man. Okay, they wouldn't be worried, you know, caught up in other all these different nations and trying to micromanage every single country on the earth. But because that's what they're doing, they're gonna be they're gonna be found out, and they're gonna be open for destruction. Right? And these nations know that. Right? And it says in the aftermath of Trump's tariff war, discussions around the Korea-Japan Free Trade Agreement have reemerged. As such, a pact could help mitigate some of the risks posed by U.S. tariffs, Park added. Clear benefits, but what are the optics? Many experts here acknowledge the long-term benefits of an FTA, but remain skeptical about its near-term feasibility. A successful free trade agreement among the three countries could result in an economic bloc with greater GDP than the European Union. Holy shit. Which could potentially serve as a safeguard against Trump's erratic policies. The three countries make up 20% of the global population, while their combined nominal GDP reached 23.7 trillion in 2023, representing around 23% of global GDP and surpassing the EU's 18.6 trillion. Yeah, because what the fuck does the EU even fucking other than Germany? Really, that's Germany carrying a lot of the weight. What the hell does the EU really offer to the world, man? Okay, what friggin' Italian wine? I don't know. Like, are you kidding me? Germany is like the leader in technology of Europe, right? When it comes to the cars, the automotive industry, that's one of their biggest industries over there, right? But other than that, you don't offer much. All right. It won't be easy, said Park, and the EU is going into the beast, right? The beast. Okay. It won't be easy, said Park. There are benefits to the free trade agreement, but the timing is complicated. It could appear as an opposition to Trump's trade policies or seem like forming a China centered alliance which could provoke backlash. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's all meant to happen anyways. You nations are supposed to come together against the horde, and you will, right? And there's more, but I just get a couple scriptures, and I'm gonna close off on that. And this is Joel 3:10. I'll start at 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles: prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves, and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord, Yahweh. All right? Because the weak is going into these weaker nations. Okay? Weaker nations and strong nations. I'm kidding. But the weak is talking about these nations that were once actually considered weak, but because of their, they've been ramping up on their military expenditures, right? And they're actually in one accord. They hate the whore. They hate the great Satan, which is America, right? They're actually going to be fighting this war with purpose in their mind, right? And the Lord has stirred up the minds of these people. Okay? So let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, let the fats overflow, for the wickedness is great. Multitudes, all right? Hundreds of thousands to millions of people just getting slaughtered in the Heavenly Father's meat grinder, which is the World War III. Splatoon, man. Blood being stained to the ground. All right? That's what's coming, man. War. You know what I mean? Shell shock, all of that shit. Bombs. You know? The sounds of fighter jets flying by you. You know? People are going to be in fear, man. They don't know if it's going to hit their house, their building, their what, wherever they are, man. It's just going to be all out chaos and hell, man. Okay? The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. All right? That's even going into, that's wisdom. All right? The wisdom of this world. All right? The opportunity to get this wisdom, right? Because the men of the Lord are going to be hidden in that day. You're going to be looking to find us when we were out in the open, when everything was all good. You could have found us or whatever, but you're not going to be able to now. You're not going to be able to find us anymore. Okay, the Heavenly Father is going to hide us under His wings, man. Okay, the Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter His voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But the Lord Yahweh will be the hope of His people and the strength of the children of Israel. That's it. See, even out of all of this, right? Only the Israelites are going to be saved with, out of these three countries joining together. They're not going to win. They're not going to be the ruler. They're not going to be the next rulers of this new world to come. Okay? And then you have Israelites of our people. You have Israelites that may look like these individuals here or of these various countries, China, Japan, and South Korea. And they may be saved if they're of the elect, right? But majority of them are the other nations, huh? I can't even say majority because China has a crazy population in the billions, so that's there's a lot of Jake over there for sure. All right, in India too. Okay, and those are, high population is a telltale sign of that's an Israelite, man, because Israelites like to get it in. Israelites like to have children. All right, the more they were oppressed, the more they had children. Right, going pursuing back to Exodus in Egypt. Right, so shall ye know that I am the Lord Yahweh your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her anymore. All right, so ultimately, we're going to come out on top. Okay. Jeremiah 51:7. Hold on, Slack, be right back. Just have to grab a water. Salakia. Jeremiah 51:7. Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, Lord Yahweh's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Okay, all these nations have drank the philosophies of the whore, and all these different countries have took part of it. The countries that are being mentioned here have taken part of in Babylon's wickedness, but they're realizing that the effects of their wickedness it didn't benefit their country, and they're going back into their ancient way, man. All right, they're putting away differences, okay, to better their people, to better their, you know, how things used to be. Because a lot of those countries in the East, man, they have their history dating back thousands of years ago. They knew what it was. They knew what it was like when people were all in the same accord, okay? And that's why they're able to get so far and how they can move now as a unit. Because their history wasn't really wiped away from them. They knew who, where their family line goes all the way back to, man. And they hold dear to their ancestors and the traditions that they have, and so they want to actually honor their ancestors and their family name. They're big on that, whereas in America, in the West, they don't give a fuck. All right, they don't carry their name, they don't hold value to their last names. you know they just, this is just my name, this is just my name. They don't understand the legacy behind having a name, man, a family name. You know, whereas these countries, they do. You know, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country, for the judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. All right, yeah. So there's no healing America, man, because the wickedness is so great that it's it can't go back, man. The damage has already been done. You know. But yeah, I'm just gonna end it off there. And Lord will, you brothers are edified, you sisters as well. I'm gonna say shalom and to the next one.